In Get Fresh, acclaimed New Zealand chef Al Brown heads to the far corners of the country, tracking down the best markets, finest produce and freshest ingredients as he attempts to create a meal that captures the quintessential flavour of each region. 3 courses put to the test with some very discerning local guests. So get ready to get fresh with Al Brown. This week, Al's heading south to the proud city of Dunedin, blending fine local produce with Scottish heritage and a spice of student life.
I've always really enjoyed that sense of arrival in Dunedin. Coming from either direction, you go down a large hill and the city just sort of opens up to you, and it is an absolutely beautiful city, and I think it's one of those places that's probably a favourite city of most New Zealanders. As far as food goes, well, I don't know, haggis, oatcakes, porridge. I think it's probably a bit unfair, actually. There'll be a lot of great product down this part of the country. So a big university town, and I really love that sort of interplay between the sort of tomfoolery of the students and the, I guess, the conservative people who live here who sort of tolerate it. And I think in some ways they quite like it, actually. You boys meant to be studying?
Al's first stop is Dunedin's Grand Railway Station, which every Saturday is transformed into a vibrant gathering of growers, producers and market goers that form one of the largest farmers' markets in the country.
So the Otago Farmers Market's 8 years old. It's a market that has a great reputation up and down the country, and I think that's mainly because there's a community that's really behind the market. It's part of their routine, and they go down there and they support the market. They get their fruit and vegetables and produce and all their bits and pieces for the week.
The market is Al's first real look at the produce that's available for his meal.
Strawberries at this time of year doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Not today's weather anyway.
The thing I do with strawberries immediately, give them a good smell, because that's, you know, it's a pretty good indication of ripeness and sweetness, is it?
Yeah, it is, yep. Oh, that's excellent.
I have this one, I have one more, please. Even at the market, they have specials for the scarfies, huh? These Cox's orange are an apple that taste what an apple should taste like. You know, they have crispness and they have sweetness and they're fresh and they are just beautiful to eat. Absolutely blown away by the variety of produce at the Otago Farmers Market. And the big thing for me was it really opened up my eyes to the region itself. The weather's sort of dictating a little bit how I'm thinking about the food that I'm going to be doing. It seems that I want to use the sort of the heartier vegetables. Parsnips, these would be the first of the early season's parsnips. Magic vegetable, I love these. Haggis, here we are. I presume we'd see it somewhere.
Yeah.
Look at that, eh?
People can cut a hunk off the end and just use what they want, pan fry it or microwave it and then use it like a pate.
You guys famous for your black pudding?
Yes.
What's the difference between the white and the black?
The white's actually got the juice that the meat's cooked in, and the black's got the ox blood on it.
Okay. To me, it's just another product that, you know, you don't see very often, but when I do get to eat it, I really, really enjoy it. And to be able to just grab one there from the market, cook it up immediately, just with a little bit of apple, was fantastic. And I'm just going to get a little bit of colour on these, but it's the spice and the other fillings that are in there that really give black pudding its delicious and unique flavour. And apple and blood pudding, I can tell, will be a match. And when I thinking about trying to come up with, you know, the end 3 dishes, you know, this to me immediately, it feels like I'm going down the right direction. It feels like these sorts of products are going to be used in my final dishes for sure. It's delicious. Try that sausage too.
The black pudding went down a treat, and that, along with the huge variety of produce at the market, has given Al plenty to think about for his meal, which he'll be cooking up in one of his favourite Dunedin restaurants, Plato, in the old Otago Seafarers building down by the harbour.
The restaurant that is owned and run by a guy called Nigel. I sort of know through association, but I've always respected and enjoyed the style of food that he cooks. Look at this. See, the collecting's going well.
Yeah, always, always. Okay, this is it. Come on.
Fantastic.
6 burner, 4 burner with oven, salamander, wee char grill.
Right.
With his kitchen sorted, it's time to explore some ingredients further afield.
So sometimes I think we forget what a wonderful harbour Dunedin's got. And there's a seafood that's really prevalent through here, and it's the little cockle or the clam, and it's one of those ingredients that I rate, and I think I've got to give it serious consideration when I think about using it as an ingredient for one of the dishes at least.
Al's come to Carey's Bay near Port Chalmers to catch up with Roger Belton, the pioneer of local seafood company Southern Clams.
Hiya, how you going?
How are you? Ever since I tasted my first Southern Clams, they've been a regular on menus that I've done for years and years and years.
Right from the beginning, it's been essential to have key chefs who recognise the potential, who stand by it.
Clams are found in most of Dunedin's estuaries and harbours. 30 years ago, Roger gathered them to feed his family. Now he's feeding people from all over the world with this wonderful local resource.
We're running about 800 clams to a metre.
800 clams per metre,
yeah.
right here in Dunedin.
The clams can only be harvested an hour each side of low tide. As the crew pull their harvesters through the beds, the small clams slip through the mesh and are left behind. And the keepers sent to specific markets depending on their size.
So James, what's it like having a job like this, mate?
Oh, it's amazing.
Spreading the love?
Yeah, spreading the love and the aroha and the mana and everything like that.
That's wicked.
Take the pie, eh?
Because most of the stuff is going to the east coast of the states, and there'll be a harvest tomorrow for the domestic market with a preference for large.
It's funny, eh, us Kiwis, we always like the biggest snapper, the biggest flounder, the biggest cockle, the biggest clam.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, but and yet we're exporting them a lot smaller because the other people in the rest of the world know that these are probably a bit sweeter.
Yeah, you're onto it.
Yeah.
Bigger isn't always best.
No, that's right, that's right. Beautiful. To me, it's just this burst of the clean water. There's a lovely sort of residual sweetness there, and texturally, they're absolutely beautiful. I really can't go past using the clam for my Dunedin entree, but the question is, how do I use it?
The first option is to simply cook them in the shell.
Once the heat comes through that pan, they'll just open up and we'll take them out immediately. Garlic and butter and shellfish works every time, and then we'll chop it this way.
Added to the butter is chopped garlic, lemon zest, chilli, and a squeeze of lemon.
You know, lemon juice with any sort of briny or salty goes very, very well. This one here is open. And that's how we want it, just let go like that. By doing them this way, you really have no problems with overcooking the clam because you can see them when they open. And that's what we want to see. See the clam there? It's still retained a lot of its liquor. Let's let go a little bit, but we'll use that. We get our lovely garlic, lemon and chilli butter, and we just pour that over them, like so. Some fresh coriander, another squeeze of lemon juice. And that, to me, is making me think, how can I not do clams when I'm in this region? They are as good as you'll get anywhere in the world, any seafood.
After the break, Al closes in on his clam entree and finds the perfect main for a cash-strapped student. Chef Al Brown is hoping to capture the flavour of Dunedin in a 3-course meal. He's got some wonderful clams from the harbour, but is still deciding how best to cook them for his entree.
So after that feed of clams on the back of the truck, I'm thinking, well, maybe that's just it. I'll do clams with some wine, garlic, some herbs and butter, as simple as that. But then I feel it's a strong area. It needs something a little bit more, and I'm thinking chowder.
Al's entree will be a tried and true classic, the clam chowder.
So we've just heated up a saucepan. We're going to add a little bit of white wine. A chowder is an absolute thing of beauty. It's a bowl of comfort food. And then we're going to add our beautiful southern clams. It's more than a soup. It's more like a seafood stew, and it's hearty and it's got that taste of the ocean. And for me, it's really, really up there as far as, you know, classic dishes of the world. So these are just opening up as I'm going. Trying really not to overcook these. We just want them to let go of the juice, because these are going to go in right at the end of the chowder. But we need the liquor to make the base.
With the clams cooked and set aside, Al starts on the flavour base for the chowder. Bacon, onion, celery, carrot, along with thyme and chilli flakes. That's then sweated down and chicken stock is added.
The reason we use chicken stock is that the strength of that brine is really quite salty, so we're just cutting it, followed by the clam juice. It's going to be really good.
And what's going to make it even better is the unexpected addition of the crab that Al gathered with Roger on the way in from the clam beds.
There you go. That's the target species right there. There's 2 or 3 crabs in there. Now that we've got a few crabs, maybe we can add those and sort of pimp out the dish a little bit more. This will kill the crab instantly when I just pull its cap forward, like that. The best thing to use with these crabs is just some kitchen scissors. That is really basically just solid crab meat in there. And these will just go in for, you know, no more than sort of 3 or 4 minutes. Once you've got your crab to this stage, is to work on it immediately. Turn it this way. You see it coming out of the legs as well.
The crab meat is set aside to be added later. It'll bring a natural sweetness to the chowder, which will be balanced out with kumara and potato, sliced into small pieces and cooked separately. To finish off, Al thickens the chowder with the roux and adds cream, then brings everything together. The kumara and potato, along with the cooked clams, roughly chopped and added to the chowder. Then the parsley, and finally the crab meat. A squeeze of lemon completes Al's entree.
And that is all.
The chowder is set aside. It's time to move on to the main.
I feel super confident that the chowder is going to work a treat, so it's time to start thinking about the main. And for some reason, I always start thinking of haggis. And there's only one place to go, and that is Lecky's Butchery. So I do love a good butcher, and these guys, Lecky's, have been serving Dunedin meat and small goods for well over 80 years.
Established in 1927 by Alexander Lecky, then passed to son Jim, and now run by son-in-law Grant.
G'day, Al. How are you?
Lecky's have refined their award-winning recipes of meats and small goods for generations, including their prized haggis.
Make some haggis. So this is the mix. Are you the haggis man?
We are. All of us out here, yes. So it's mainly mutton, a combination of onions in with that as well, and offal, liver and hearts, kidney.
So all the good stuff.
All the good stuff, yeah. It's cooked first, then minced, and then everything's mixed together with seasonings made up of around about 7 or 8 different herbs and spices. Which can't tell you that. Yeah.
Looks like he's got a bit of a kernel in it.
And to give it the X factor that only a haggis can have is the sheep's paunch.
You know, they used the paunch because they didn't have anything else to do with it, put it in?
No, they just didn't waste anything.
Yeah, I'm Scottish. Don't waste anything. You know, it's so natural, and they're using all the animal, and you know, I'm thinking, you know, could I use this in the cook-up? And maybe it won't make the cut, but I still think it's fantastic to see it being made and still being enjoyed in this region.
Haggis might be off the menu, but in the room next door, pork could well be on.
Yeah, pig day today, so pigs are in. You know, it starts here from our hams to our bacon.
Pork's one of the great meats of the world, and it's celebrated by cuisines all over. It's an animal that you can use every part, and it's so versatile. Talk us through from top to the bottom.
You got your leg there, your loin chops, your belly on the front, the shoulder, with your hock at the front.
I'm looking at the pigs and I've got to decide what cut I'm going to use. Then suddenly it dawns on me, the hocks. To me it's like a little mini roast, and it's got a big bone in it, but it's got really, really gelatinous meat in there. They're only a few dollars, but they eat like a million, and I'm thinking perfect for Scotsmen and students. And that, to me, looks like just a little mini pork roast. I can taste this already. This lovely skin on it, if we score it and rub some salt in it, we're going to get a really lovely sort of crisp crackling as well. So what we're going to do with these hocks, we're going to put them in a very, very hot oven. So, crank it up on your domestic oven. We're going to give it about 10 or 15 minutes in there. Keep an eye on them, and they're going to start to crackle, and then we're going to lower the heat and then slowly roast them.
With the hock roasting, Al moves on to a side of black pudding.
The thing that Hado's trying to do is get some lovely colour on there, and what happens with the black pudding is it actually forms quite a little crunchy outer layer, and it's really soft on the inside, and that's what we're looking for. We've got our Cox's orange.
Next, Al cooks some apple to go alongside the pork, one of the classic combinations.
You can see the sugar, the natural sugars in there, just caramelising immediately. The apple really adds a little bit of sweetness and some acidity to cut through the richness of the pork. So I've got that happening on the dish, and now I've got to start thinking about a vegetable, and I'm thinking parsnip.
Al's decided to puree the parsnip, cooking it first in water to soften, then reducing it with cream before it's blended and put through a sieve.
So that's what we're looking for, really, really silky smooth puree.
For his final side dish, Al wilts some market greens before finishing them off with butter and garlic chives. His Dunedin main is almost complete. After the break, Al gathers some winter berries for dessert before serving his Dunedin meal to 4 very discerning guests. Chef Al Brown's hoping to capture the flavour of Dunedin in a 3-course meal. For his entree, he's made a clam chowder, and for the main, he's roasting pork hocks. And it's looking good.
I can tell by going like that the actual pork on the bone is absolutely really tender, and that's exactly what we're looking for.
The pork is left to rest and the crackle to harden up. A perfect time to sort out dessert. And that takes Al over the hill to the fertile plains of the Tidy.
So everything seems to be coming together quite nicely, but I've got to think of the dessert. And the one thing that I heard from the guy that sold me the strawberries was that there are these late autumn raspberries that he does. Fine looking crop of celery. Hey, Steve.
Steve MacArthur has been growing produce on these plains since 1969. While he grows some veg for the farmer's market, his mainstay is berries, and that's what Al is after.
For me, when things are in season, you've got to use them. As a chef, it's your driving force when formulating a menu.
I love boysenberries and raspberries.
So these are your boysenberries?
These are blackberries.
Blackberries?
Yeah, of course.
One of the big surprises to me, being down at this region at this time of year, was that there were still berries around, and not just strawberries and blackberries, which are sort of the end of the season. There are also raspberries, so to have this late flush of berries was a really lovely surprise, and I think things like that should be celebrated, that a region like this can be growing berries at this time of year. I'm doing a summer bread pudding with berries. Yep. So, you know, strawberries that we've got, the raspberries are going to be sort of the hero, I guess. Yep. And then the blackberries for colour, and it'll give it a little bit more acidity as well.
Yeah, that sounds very nice.
Yeah, it will be.
Yeah.
It'll be beautiful. What Hado's making is called a summer pudding, and it's kind of like a bread pudding.
See what you mean about the blackberries?
Quite tart, eh?
Yeah.
He's going to add a little bit of sugar and maybe a little bit of Chambord, which is just a little bit of raspberry liqueur, which is just going to give it a little bit of edge. He's going to cook a few of the berries so they let go some of their juice.
The berries are cooked down, and then the white bread is dipped into the juice and used to line the tin. The berries are placed in the middle, the sides folded over, and then the whole thing weighted down and put into the fridge.
Fantastic.
The summer bread pudding completes Al's 3-course Dunedin meal. It's now time to put it to the test with 4 locals who will judge how well Al's meal captures the flavour of their region.
They're a pretty staunch bunch, the folks of Dunedin. I got to say, I'm a little bit nervous on presenting, I guess, my take on the region's food.
Plato's owner and chef, Nigel Broad.
For me, it's the species of fish that you can't get in other parts of the country.
Roger Belton and Christine Durpinard from Southern Clams.
The perfect meal would involve seafood, fresh fish and shellfish.
I'll cook it with just, you know, lemon and herbs, or it's always incredibly simple.
Putting a little bit of lemon and fennel oil in there.
and Dunedin's Mayor, Dave Cull.
Being coastal and being southern, it's seafood. Crayfish, cockles, blue cod.
So it's clam and crab chowder with a lemon and fennel oil. It's just a chowder, but if you make them well with great product, and the clams from this region are outstanding, and I thought the crab added a lovely dimension to it.
The flavour of the chowder is very intense, very, very, very strong, which is complemented with the softness of the crab.
It's quite salty. I like the fact that the saltiness and the intensity of the chowder is offset by those slightly bland al dente vegetables. It's just a nice contrast.
Back in the kitchen, the puree parsnip is laid out and the pork is falling off the bone.
That is going to be sensational. The main course, oh, that sort of food just makes me smile big time. You know, the hocks, they came out, 3 hours in the oven, the crispy crackling. The blood pudding, that added a lovely sort of dimension to it. To me, that dish sort of felt like Dunedin in a whole lot of ways. It's sort of, it's rustic and it was big and full flavoured. Slow roasted pork hock with black pudding and sautéed apple.
Yeah, I understand.
Really nice flavours, really great flavours. And textures.
but it's rich, but it's not a winter meal necessarily. You could eat it any time of the year.
It's lovely. It's
a true, authentic flavour of product that's got substance.
Back in the kitchen, the summer bread pudding.
But just a lovely surprise about having the autumn berries or the late flush of berries down here as well, just to celebrate the end of summer, a summer pudding. Something like that, to me, white bread, some beautiful berries, a little bit of custard and cream. It's pretty hard to fault it. Berry summer pudding with creme anglaise.
It's really perfect. It's a lovely combination. And nice after that pork, sort of, yeah, it's great.
I think it's fantastic. I'm not a dessert person. I almost never eat dessert. And this is absolutely beautiful because it's delicate and light and it allows the berry flavour to come through, just the way you take them off the bush.
I have to hit Al up for the recipe. Berry juice.
So it's Dunedin, and I have to say it's been one of my favourites actually. I don't know, something about this city. It's so unique, and the people and the place and the food. I was really happy with how that all turned out.
Cooking in the kitchen.